At the engagement banquet, the company's newly recruited female designer cut my dress to shreds. Your neck is short, so it's not suitable for a high collar. Your figure is evenly proportioned, yet you're dressed conservatively, cutting it to 2 inches below the hips would be most appropriate. She held the scissors and gave me a provocative smile. Miss Lydia, when Mr. Julian recruited me, he allowed me to create anytime and anywhere. Consider this one today as my wedding gift to you. Everyone around was stunned. My fiancé hurried over to coax me. She's the promising talent I just poached from design school. The girl is young, don't hold it against her. Seeing the protection in his eyes, I laughed in anger. Fine, my dress was made by Master Katherine, custom tailored for me, with a market value of 3 million. Since you've ruined it, you'll have to pay for it. Julian was just about to speak. The next second, I interrupted him. By the way, let's pause the engagement ceremony. Ivy sneered from the side, rolling her eyes dramatically and shaking her head in exasperation. Julian, your family's young lady really knows how to make a fuss over nothing. It's just a dress, why such a big temper? Julian's face showed some embarrassment, and his tone grew heavier. Lydia, stop making a scene. Ivy's design talent is highly regarded by several industry seniors. Giving her space for free creation is also for the company's future development. If you continue like this, I'll get angry. He paused, then turned to Ivy with a gentle tone. Ivy, Lydia is more conservative and doesn't quite understand your creations. Apologize to Lydia, and let's put this behind us. Ivy shrugged, spread her hands, with a perfunctory expression. Okay, of course I didn't do anything wrong, creation is innocent, but since Julian asked. She forced a completely insincere smile, deliberately drawing out her words. Sorry, young lady, I shouldn't have created the dress without understanding your outdated, oh, no, conservative ideas. Happy now? My face looked unpleasant, but Julian was satisfied with the situation. Alright, Lydia, go change your clothes, the guests are waiting. I spoke in disbelief. Julian, her completely insincere apology, and you're just going to let it go like that? Know when to stop. He reached out to pull me, using some force, hinting for me to endure it. I didn't move, so he increased his strength, almost dragging me. I didn't expect him to treat me like this. My high heels suddenly twisted, and I fell embarrassingly to the ground. Rip, the already damaged dress hem was completely torn open, and the neckline was pulled askew, exposing a large area of shoulder and collarbone. Suppressed gasps arose around us. Julian was stunned for a moment, then immediately took off his suit jacket, intending to drape it over me. Ivy hugged her arms and lightly hissed, her voice delicate. Achoo! Julian, is the air conditioning here turned up too high? I'm so cold. Julian's hand extending toward me paused. Almost without hesitation, he turned and draped the suit jacket over Ivy, even carefully adjusting the front. If you're cold, why didn't you say so earlier? He reproached faintly. It wasn't anger, it was displeasure that she hadn't expressed her need immediately, and even more displeasure that he hadn't noticed it right away. I had always thought that this favoritism was exclusively for me from Julian. It turns out, it wasn't. His love was very cheap. My throat suddenly became dry, unable to speak. I'm not that delicate. Ivy wrapped his jacket tightly, showing a sweet smile on her face, as if coquettishly, looking up to ask him, Julian, you said today you'd introduce me to Master Victor, is it true? Julian smiled indulgently. Of course, if not for the engagement ceremony, how could I invite him over? So that's how it was. Master Victor, a titan in the domestic design world, whom ordinary people could hardly meet. For my engagement banquet, Julian had gone to great lengths to invite the elder as his future son-in-law just to make an appearance. It turns out that the engagement banquet I had been longing for was merely a career stepping stone for the great designer Ivy. Yes, everyone knows that Miss Lydia is soft and easy to bully, a few casual words of comfort and I'll endure it myself. What does this grievance count for? Julian patted Ivy's back, his tone relaxed. I'll take you there in a bit. Victor will definitely give you guidance for my sake. They prepared to walk toward the center of the banquet hall. Julian. I called him. He turned back, his face still holding lingering gentleness, which turned to a hint of impatience upon seeing me. What now? You're an adult, do you still need me to help you up? Get up quickly and change clothes, don't sit on the ground, what does that look like? Hearing this, I slowly propped myself up from the ground and stood. Then, I raised my left hand and removed the diamond ring from my ring finger. That ring, which he had personally designed and selected for me. I placed it back in his palm. The engagement ends here. Julian was stunned for a few seconds, then somewhat helpless. What's wrong with you today? You weren't like this before. He casually put the ring in his pocket, and with his other hand, as he had done countless times before, pinched my cheek. Lydia, I know you're the most tolerant, don't throw a child's tantrum. He lowered his voice, with a coaxing tone. With so many guests here, don't make it difficult for me. Ivy has great talent, you've seen it, her works are full of spirit. Our goal is to shape her into the next Katherine. This is my career, just support me, okay? The next Katherine? By shredding the engagement dress that Katherine personally made for me, to start her superstar path? I looked at that familiar handsome face, my heart completely chilled. His tone was so matter-of-fact, the humiliation and embarrassment I suffered were insignificant in his eyes. Or perhaps, on his scale, my feelings had always been as light as dust. It's just that before, I never had the chance to weigh them. I trembled with anger, just about to refuse, when I was interrupted by Ivy's crisp, bright, and dissatisfied voice. Hey! Young lady! She stepped to Julian's side, chin lifted high. I've already apologized, what more do you want? You high and mighty young ladies are the hardest to deal with. It's just a dress, I'll compensate you. Is it necessary to be so relentless and embarrass your fiancé in public? I looked at her coldly, 3 million, how do you plan to pay? She huffed angrily. You're asking for the moon. Bullying a recent graduate with dreams, does that give you a sense of accomplishment? You really don't know the hardships of life. After Ivy finished speaking, she turned to Julian, her tone unabashedly aggrieved and arrogant. Julian. If I had known your wife was so difficult, I wouldn't have come to work here. People wanting to poach me could line up from our school gate to France. Staying here makes me feel suffocated. Her small figure shrank in the suit, her hair thick and curly, her eyes stubbornly reddening. Julian immediately coaxed her gently. All right, it's my fault for not handling it well, don't be angry. Didn't you say you wanted to eat the signature Wellington steak at that revolving restaurant? I'll take you there tonight as an apology, okay? As he spoke, he took out his phone, fingers swiftly moving. My phone vibrated shortly after. Bank deposit notification, 3 million, with the note dress compensation. After Julian finished this, he looked at me again, the remaining gentleness in his eyes completely gone. The money has been transferred to you, I'll foot the bill. Is that okay now? You've made your scene, your anger should be vented. Ivy and I still need to greet Master Victor, don't keep the guests waiting too long. He raised his hand, seeming to want to put it around my shoulder, but his fingers paused in the air and ultimately withdrew. Instead, his gaze fell on Ivy, his tone becoming gentle again. Let's go. Ivy snorted lightly from her nose, wrapped the suit jacket tightly, and followed closely beside Julian as they turned to leave. As she passed me, her shoulder deliberately bumped into me. The force was not light. Caught off guard, already in high heels, I staggered back half a step before steadying myself. I clenched my hand, nails digging deep into the flesh, almost embedding into the bone. This pain suppressed all my impulsiveness. From the corridor came Ivy's aggrieved and dissatisfied voice. Brother Julian. Your fiancé is too overbearing, is being a rich young lady such a big deal? Bullying me is one thing, but I'm really worried she'll bully you like this in the future. Julian slightly turned his head, suppressing his voice, saying something to Ivy. Probably words to back her up. Then, Ivy looked up in response. Her smile was bright and dazzling, the corner of her eye provocatively glancing in my direction. I slowly released my hand. Good, very good. I took out my phone from my bag, the screen reflecting my expressionless face. Master Victor. Lydia? How is your father's health lately? I'm preparing to head to your engagement banquet and see your father along the way. Master Victor, the engagement banquet is paused, there's been an accident. I gripped the phone tightly. Additionally, there's something I'd like to ask for your small help. Oh? Tell me. Tonight, Julian will introduce someone to you. Even Julian could hardly believe it. That I, Lydia, would hold a grudge against a fledgling young girl. Master Victor's comments made Ivy lose all face at that evening banquet. Overnight, it spread throughout the entire circle. These are all piled-up imitations, you can't even say what the theme of your own works is. Your basic skills are as weak as they can be, even an elementary school student making clothes for a doll has better stitching than this. Did you come here specifically to fool me? These comments were exaggerated and spread by onlookers, becoming the latest joke in the circle. Along with it, Julian's star-making plan and several key collaborations that were about to be finalized instantly fell through. Julian was overwhelmed. He knew it was me, I was waiting for him to come and confront me. As a result, the next afternoon, he appeared at my doorstep. Holding a limited edition gift box from a top jewelry brand, with a beaming smile. I looked at him coldly for a moment. Come in. He placed the gift box on the coffee table, opened it, revealing a diamond necklace sparkling with light. Yesterday was my fault, I made you suffer. This is to apologize. I sat on the sofa, not looking at the necklace, just at him. He stood there holding the necklace for a while, sighed, and sat down beside me. He reached out to hold my hand, but I avoided it. He wasn't annoyed and continued talking. Lydia, why bother with a young girl? Doing this will ruin her. I sneered, curling my lips. Bluntly, without leaving any face, I asked him. You value Ivy so much, is it really just appreciating her talent? You graduated from the London College of Fashion, I don't believe you can't see it. Julian's face changed slightly. Lydia, do you not trust me anymore? I'm 7 years older than her, I treat her like a child. Yesterday's incident was a big blow to Ivy. She's young after all, and talented people have high spirits, falling suddenly, I'm afraid she can't bear it. He observed my expression, his tone becoming more earnest. So I was thinking, could I borrow your family's art exhibition hall on Binjiang Road? I want to quickly hold a personal exhibition for Ivy. I'll cover the venue and set up fees. I finally raised my eyes to look at him. Sunlight fell on his face, still the handsome one that made my heart flutter. But the Julian I loved wouldn't defend others in front of me. Nor would he have such filthy thoughts toward a child. Julian, she ruined my engagement banquet. Humiliated me in public, destroyed my dress. Now, you want me to use my family's venue, my family's reputation, to hold an exhibition for her, to back her up? The smile on his face faded a bit. Lydia, that was just a misunderstanding, Ivy apologized, and I compensated. Now the important thing is to solve the problem. Do you want to watch a promising newcomer be ruined by rumors? This isn't good for the company or my career. Can't you be a bit more magnanimous and help me this time? We'll be family eventually. Family? I almost laughed out loud. Just as I was about to speak, the living room door was suddenly pushed open. Ivy rushed in. Her eyes were red and swollen, face still with tear stains, hair somewhat disheveled. She didn't even glance at me, rushing straight to Julian. Julian. I've had enough. From childhood to now, I've won awards until my hands are soft, mentors say I'm a once-in-a-decade genius. I've never suffered such humiliation. Everyone treats me as a joke. Do you know what those people say about me behind my back? Julian immediately stood up, trying to soothe her. Ivy, don't get agitated, I'm thinking of ways. Ivy forcefully shook off his hand trying to support her, tears rolling down in large drops. What ways? Julian, I tell you, even if you offer more money to poach me, I don't want to stay in this place. You people make me sick. She pointed at me, eyes full of resentment, then turned to Julian. Don't come looking for me anymore. I can't afford to associate with you. After saying that, she covered her face, turned and ran out crying, her back resolute. Ivy. Julian's face changed drastically, and without thinking, he wanted to chase after her. Julian. I called him, nails digging deep into the flesh. He turned back. His face was full of urgency and impatience, his eyes even somewhat fierce, a look I had never seen. My voice was very faint and slow. This was the last chance I gave him. If you step out that door, it's really over between us. He stood there, looked at me for a few seconds, suddenly pulling out an extremely disappointed cold laugh. Lydia, do you know? She's never cried in front of me. Do you know what a disgusting thing you've done? This exhibition, whether you hold it or not, it must be held. He strode out chasing her. The living room fell completely silent. I slowly leaned back into the sofa. I released my hand. The pain in my palm seemed to spread to my heart. Ivy's fashion exhibition was held as scheduled. It was with my permission. Julian felt he had won a great victory, ended the Cold War, and specially came to find me, even bringing Ivy. Lydia, thank you for your understanding. Rest assured, Ivy will definitely make a splash this time, and the previous misunderstandings will be over. I sat in the spacious armchair in the study, faintly glancing at them. Understanding? I sneered inwardly, but showed no ripples on my face. Ivy handed an exquisite dress box to me with both hands. Miss Lydia, thank you so much for generously lending the venue this time. This is a thank you gift I specially designed for you, I hope you like it. The box contained an exquisite dress. I glanced at it, then raised my eyes to look at Ivy. Miss Ivy. Since you specially made this dress for me, wouldn't you know I'm allergic to blended fiber materials? Are you inattentive, or did you deliberately choose this fabric? Ivy's smile stiffened on her face. Julian frowned. Ivy had good intentions, personally designing the dress for you. Why do you always think the worst of people? Allergic? What a coincidence. You just have prejudice against her. Perhaps. Prejudice against stupidity and malice. Having worn the soft mask for so long, they really thought I was that ignorant, superficial, and easy to talk to Miss Lydia. I picked up the dress and casually tore it. The fabric ripped instantly, ornaments falling all over the floor, then I casually threw it into the trash bin in the corner. I don't need it. I said. Ivy's eyes reddened, you're too much. Julian's face completely changed. But what I didn't expect was that he dared to hit me. I didn't even see his hand-raising motion clearly, only feeling a burning pain on my left cheek. A buzz in my ears. My whole body was tilted to one side by the force of his slap. My cheek quickly swelled. Lydia. You're too much. Your family was once rich and powerful, but after your mother died and your father fell seriously ill, what's left of your family? Even if you're still that Miss Lydia, you can't arbitrarily trample on others' intentions and dignity. I wiped the corner of my mouth with the back of my hand, tasting a bit of rust. Julian, make it clear, who is bullying whom? He ignored my words, breathing heavily. To make you remember the lesson, our engagement is postponed indefinitely. Until you learn what respect and apology mean. He no longer looked at me, grabbed Ivy. Ivy, let's go. No point talking to such an unreasonable person. The stinging pain on my cheek continued. I stood in place, unmoving. Until night fell, the phone screen lit up in the darkness, an encrypted video from an anonymous number. I opened it. In the blurry but recognizable footage, a hotel room, scattered clothes, overlapping figures. It was Julian and Ivy. I watched it quietly to the end, then turned off the screen. People not worth loving should rot in the ground together with those stupid third parties. In the following days, Julian spared no effort for Ivy's debut. Subway light boxes, commercial center giant screens, online hot searches. Ads for genius designer Ivy and subversive traditional spirit were everywhere. Ivy's social accounts were full of boasts. On the day of the exhibition, Binjiang Road was bustling. Ivy's exhibition hall entrance was filled with congratulatory flower baskets, and she and Julian stood proudly at the entrance accepting interviews. And opposite her exhibition hall, the venue that had been closed for over half a month was unveiled. I stood at the entrance of the building countless times larger than Ivy's hall, looking at the large words above, a smile curling at my lips. Katherine, Retrospective and Rebirth Global Tour First Stop. Those reporters, seeing Katherine's sign, abandoned Ivy one after another and ran over here. Miss Lydia, are you the curator of this exhibition? Why was there no promotion for Master Katherine's exhibition, and it suddenly opened? I smiled, placing my index finger on my lips, but my eyes stared at Julian and Ivy not far away. Shoo, it's a secret. When the exhibition starts soon, welcome everyone to come support. After saying that, I turned and walked into the venue, temporarily keeping the reporters outside. Soon, my phone rang. As soon as I answered, Julian's voice, suppressing anger, came through. Lydia, do you want to ruin Ivy? I spoke in feigned surprise. What's wrong? It's just pretending to be innocent, as if anyone can't do that. Julian's tone grew heavier. You know Ivy is opening her fashion exhibition today. What do you mean by inviting Katherine over? I admired my freshly done nails, the smile never leaving my lips. Then you're wronging me. Does Master Katherine need to report to me where she holds her exhibition? If she wants to open today, she opens today. He finally broke, unable to hold back a low roar. Stop playing dumb. At that moment, Katherine's nanny van drove over from not far away, and the venue staff rushed forward to greet her. I followed, and reporters swarmed in. She pushed aside the reporters, with assistants and cameras, walked straight toward me, standing by my side. The crowd and lenses immediately surged toward her. Katherine glanced at the crowd and slowly spoke. I heard there's a highly anticipated new designer here holding her debut. My exhibition also opens today, why not take a look together and exchange ideas? Ivy stood in place, face pale, body slightly trembling, unsure if from excitement or fear. Julian hurried over. Master Katherine, your presence truly honors us. But Katherine bypassed him, standing in front of Ivy. Miss Ivy wouldn't unwelcome me visiting your exhibition, right? Ivy's lips trembled. Of course not. Please. Everyone held their breath, following the master's steps. Katherine suddenly stopped in front of a dress. She looked carefully for a few seconds, her brows imperceptibly furrowing. The silhouette of this piece reminds me of the Broken Dreams series by Italian designer Antonio at Paris Fashion Week 3 years ago. Of course, the details are much rougher, and the lines have lost the beauty in the struggle of the original, leaving only stiff imitation. Her tone was flat, yet each word like a knife. Low gasps arose from the crowd. Ivy's forehead kept sweating. Just a coincidence. Katherine pointed with her finger at a framed sketch. This design has over 70% similarity to one by a Japanese designer, coincidence? Heh. She covered her mouth and chuckled lightly. Coincidences in art aren't defined this way. Ivy finally collapsed, screaming shrilly, tears bursting out. I didn't. You're lying. This is my own design. I came up with it after countless sleepless nights. What right do you have to slander me? Just because you're a master, you can bully newcomers casually? She tried to pounce on Katherine to argue, but was held back tightly by Julian. Katherine leisurely crossed her arms watching her. I'm lying? If I remember correctly, the piece you're wearing plagiarized one from my last year's Spring Haute Couture series, right? I might be wrong about others, but my own works, I remember clearly. Ivy roared madly. This is my original work. Mine. Katherine chuckled lightly, took out scissors from her bag, then cleanly cut off the most intricate embroidery on Ivy's dress, which was most in Katherine's style. Ivy tried to dodge, but was held by Katherine's other hand on the shoulder. Then, she cut open her skirt hem. The layered, wave-like beautiful hem was mercilessly torn off. Katherine finally stopped amid Ivy's tears. She showed a satisfied smile. "Now, this is your original work." As Julian wished. Ivy became famous in one battle. After the exhibition ended, I left in the car with Katherine. The phone in my bag vibrated non-stop, Julian's name jumping on the screen. I looked at the receding streetscape outside the window, not answering. The car screen was playing live news footage. The lens focused on Ivy's pale, tear-streaked face, and the pile of shredded fabric ruins on the ground. Julian stood in front of the shivering Ivy, face tense, trying to maintain composure in front of the camera, his words full of defense. He rarely lost his reason like this, but with Ivy, it seemed to happen often. It seemed only Ivy could stir his emotions. The title scrolled, "Genius Designer Caught in Plagiarism Scandal, Fu Corporation President Strongly Supports." Katherine sat beside me, closed her eyes to rest for a moment, then spoke. "What do you plan to do next?" I didn't answer immediately, somewhere in my heart ached dully. I remembered many years ago, when Julian wasn't yet Julian. His family had just fallen, but the young man's back was straight, eyes with unyielding light. Remembering the first time he clumsily held my hand, palm sweaty. Remembering when he swore to make something of himself, to give me the best of everything, those serious, shining eyes. After my mother died and my father fell seriously ill, the Lee family appeared shattered on the surface. Except for old friends like Master Victor and Katherine, no one was willing to associate with the Lee family anymore. Only Julian stood up. He said, no matter what the Lee family became, he was willing to be with me, for life, only me. Unfortunately, those things I thought were indestructible turned out to be so easily shattered. I slightly turned my head, forehead gently against the cool car window glass. Tears slid from the corner of my eye. I raised my hand, quickly wiping my cheek with the back of it. The movement was light, making no sound. The phone rang again. This time it was the butler. The butler's voice carried rare urgency. "Young lady, the hospital just notified that Mr. Julian has unilaterally cut off the supply of treatment equipment and contact with the expert team. The life support machine the master is using now was contacted by Mr. Julian through special channels. Currently, there is no alternative in the country." My fingers gripping the phone tightened slightly. Almost simultaneously, a text message came in from Julian. "Lydia, there might be some misunderstandings between us. I think we can still talk. About your father's treatment, about us." Between the lines was the certainty of having grasped my weak spot. He probably thought that by holding my father's lifeline, I would have to bow my head. The last bit of hesitation in my heart due to youthful affection dissipated completely at this moment. "Understood," I said to the butler. "Immediately contact the medical center in Switzerland, in my name, request to activate the emergency medical transfer plan. They have 3 more advanced similar devices, and the expert group is world-class. At all costs, ensure my father is safely transferred within 24 hours and receives uninterrupted treatment." "Yes, young lady." After hanging up, I turned to Katherine, forcing what was probably a failed smile. "Sorry, some family matters to handle." Katherine nodded, asking no more. Picking up the phone again, I found that number I had almost never dialed proactively. "Attorney Daniel, from now on, freeze and terminate all financial dealings with Julian and all associated companies and projects under his name. Unilaterally issue termination notices, claim compensation based on the highest contract terms." He was my mother's trust fund lawyer. Before her death, she left me a huge fortune. The other end was silent for a moment, then came a calm response. "Understood, young lady. All relevant documents are ready, execute immediately. Do you need a comprehensive review of his company's financial status?" "Yes." This time, my eyes were ice cold. "Especially the last 3 years, thoroughly investigate all parts related to our fund flows." "All right." The call ended, the car fell into silence, only the low hum of the engine. Julian probably wouldn't understand, or never truly figured out, that the Lee family had never fallen. Everything he saw was merely a disguise my father made after my mother's death, tired of business struggles. And those enviable projects, investments of Julian's, and the capital that allowed his family to stand firm again, were all operated by me behind the scenes. Without Lydia, he, Julian, was nothing. After that day, I investigated many things. Some things, I wasn't unwilling to face, but I trusted him, trusted the affection that started in our youth. But these were ultimately strangled by his own hands. The investigation results were delivered to me within days, the file thick. In the photos, Julian and Ivy embracing in a deserted street corner at midnight. Julian's car parked multiple times downstairs in that old neighborhood, not returning all night. Even footage of him in the morning, wearing the previous day's clothes, walking out from Ivy's building. Looking at these, my heart had no waves, just felt a bit nauseous. So those so-called overtime, social engagements, temporary matters of his were backed by such idle drama plots. Julian, thank you for making me completely give up on you. Whether you or Ivy, the harm you've done to me, I'll get back double. I, Lydia, was never some innocent flower, you two just misjudged. On the weekend, I went to a regular restaurant for dinner. Coming out of the restroom, I bumped into Ivy. Upon seeing me, her eyes first dodged, then she raised her chin. Small in stature, with no intimidation. Miss Lydia, what a coincidence. I turned on the faucet to wash my hands, ignoring her. Seeing I ignored her, her face couldn't hold, and she deliberately came beside me to wash hands. Eating alone? Oh, I forgot, Julian has no time to accompany you now. I wiped my hands. What? Is it honorable to rise by stealing others' boyfriends? Proud to be kept by a man? I had long investigated that those awards she won back then were all by sleeping with mentors. Even after returning to the country, she still persisted in this set. She sneered fearlessly. What are you pretending to be lofty for? You think I haven't heard? Your Lee family has long been in decline, your so-called Miss Lydia is just nice to hear. For so many years, aren't you also relying on Julian to support you? What's the difference between you and me? What soft and easy to bully personality, it's just you afraid Julian would dump you, deliberately putting on an act. I look down the most on you incapable people who rely on pretending to be gentle to hold on to men, disgracing us women. Was she introducing herself? I smiled without speaking, sidestepping to leave. Just outside the restroom, she suddenly stepped forward, blocking the way. She covered her cheek with one hand, eyes instantly red, tears flowing on cue. No performance without reason, probably for someone to see. Sure enough, the next second, I heard Julian's furious voice. Lydia, you actually hit someone. I looked coldly as he ran quickly from the door. Ivy stood up sobbing, throwing herself into his arms. I didn't provoke her, why did she hit me? Are rich people like this? Can they bully us ordinary people? Julian held her shoulders distressedly, but his gaze on me was full of disappointment. Lydia, how did you become like this? I remember you were so gentle before, why now like a shrew? Do you know you look very embarrassing? I'm very disappointed in you. I sneered, softly cursed idiot, and turned to leave. Julian grabbed my wrist, pinning me against the wall. I coldly met his eyes. Julian, you'd better let go now, or I'll make your death ugly. Upon hearing, Julian's grip tightened. He stared at me fiercely. Ivy calls you young lady, and you really think you're the original Miss Lydia? The bag on your back, the clothes you're wearing, which one wasn't bought by me? After your mom died, your dad seriously ill, your Lee family is already an empty shell, just guarding those few art galleries with an empty reputation. It was me who pitted and accepted you, and you really think you're somebody? You'd better remember, don't trouble Ivy again, or don't think about marrying me, I see what you have without me. He raised his hand to hit me. The slap didn't fall. His hand was grabbed by my bodyguard. Julian struggled but couldn't break free. He glared at the bodyguard, then fiercely at me, face ashen. Lydia. Well done. Bringing bodyguards to deal with me? I adjusted my clothes. Julian panted heavily, the anger in his eyes almost spewing out. Fine, Lydia, since you insist on tearing our faces, not cherishing any old feelings, don't blame me for not considering face. Wait for it. Julian's threat wasn't empty. When we got engaged, I added several remaining surface industries of the Lee family to his name as dowry. Now he was preparing to transfer these industries. I returned to the private room, slowly sipped the already cold tea. Then, took out my phone, sent a few short messages. Julian, I'll let you know what the real Lee family is. In the next few days, I handled my affairs as usual. The industries left by my mother were intricately connected, with many daily decisions needed. Occasionally, I got brief progress reports from attorney Daniel. All of Julian's collaborative projects collapsed. Partners were either unreachable or willing to pay penalties to breach and cancel collaborations with him. His side must be in chaos, but I didn't specially inquire. Instead, my personal assistant reminded me softly. Miss, the numbers you used before, Mr. Julian has been calling very frequently lately. Also, he tried to contact you through some old connections, all blocked as per your previous instructions. I responded, change them all. Including the residents. Yes. The Fu family was probably about to collapse too. As I expected, not long after, his family's old man came to the door. Uncle Henry had aged a lot, his face unable to hide fatigue and anxiety. Upon seeing me, his lips moved, trying to pull a smile, but it looked worse than crying. Lydia, Uncle has no face to see you. It's my failure in teaching my son, letting him do so many bastard things, breaking your heart. I didn't speak, poured him a cup of tea. He held the teacup, hands shaking. That kid now knows the severity. The company collapsed, collaborations all cut, banks pressing for debts, those who flattered him before now avoid him. He's desperately seeking help everywhere, banging his head bloody, and finally found out. He raised his head, eyes red. He only then understood that all these years, those key projects, emergency funds, were all you helping behind. He thought it was his own ability, but without you, he's nothing. Uncle has already severely taught him a lesson, he regrets it now. See if you can give him a chance, just this once, no more. He put down the teacup, actually wanting to stand and bow. I stopped him. Uncle, the matter is over. Between Julian and me, it ends here. Take care of your health, no need to worry about these things. I saw him off. Outside the window, rain had started, pattering on the glass. He regretted? Was it remembering our once pure good times, or knowing I was his benefactor? I don't know. I don't want to know. The rain continued for days. The Fu family's affairs were no longer secret in the circle. When the wall falls, everyone pushes, especially since Julian tore the face first. I just reclaimed what was rightfully mine, that's all. But I didn't expect Ivy to intrude into my sight again in this way. On the villa's external monitor, she was soaked, hair sticking to her pale face, holding her phone, shouting hoarsely at my estate gate. It's this Lydia. She relies on money and power, stole my boyfriend, ruined my career. She's jealous of my talent. Capitalists suck our blood and crush our dreams. Everyone look, this is the fate of us ordinary people. She was live streaming. Online soon tagged me all over. Things like bullying the weak, rich but unkind. I was doxxed, even people digging to see if my family wealth was ill-gotten. Despite quick response, negative impact had occurred, with slight fluctuations in stock prices of several listed companies under my name. I looked at that face blurred by rain and tears on the screen. She thought she could use public opinion as a weapon. Little did she know, weapons can backfire. I started a personal live stream. In an instant, viewer numbers surged, barrages scrolling fast, most cursing me. I ignored them, adjusted my hair, then spoke faintly. Regarding Ms. Ivy's accusations today and recent online rumors, I respond here. First, Mr. Julian and I have dissolved the engagement, all business collaborations terminated legally. So-called emotional entanglements and economic coercion are untrue. In other words, whatever they do, I don't care. Second, regarding Ms. Ivy's so-called talent. I picked up the nearby tablet, turning the screen to the camera. This is the plagiarism report for her core thesis during school, 62% duplication rate, main arguments and data plagiarized from unpublished foreign literature. Next page. This is her award-winning new talent work, compared to an Italian designer's practice piece posted on personal homepage 5 years ago. Obvious to all plagiarism. Page after page. Competition works, all direct plagiarism. Even some design inspirations she boasted on social media could find almost identical online material sources. The live stream's win changed. Third, based on reliable information, Ms. Ivy had a long-term improper relationship with her then-married mentor during school, and thereby gained improper benefits in academic evaluations, competition recommendations, and retention opportunities. Relevant evidence I have emailed to her alma mater. In the frame, my face was clear and calm. Above is my full response. For continued fabrication and spreading of rumors, infringing my legal rights, my legal team will pursue legally. Livestream ended. After, hot searches were occupied by Ivy plagiarism solid evidence. She was completely disgraced, more irreparable than the time in front of Katherine. Days later, the butler informed softly that Julian wanted to see me, pleading repeatedly, even relaying through his father. I didn't let him in, he argued with my butler below the villa. I stood by the window. Remembering many years ago, also such a post-rain dusk, Julian used his school uniform jacket to cover my head, getting half his shoulder wet, just to escort me home. I remembered his moist eyes, his warm hand. But couldn't overlap with the person downstairs no matter how. Seeing I didn't come out, he roared downstairs. Lydia, I really know I was wrong, I was deceived by Ivy, I was blind. I thought she really had talent, personality, I just wanted to prove I could cultivate talent. I'm a bastard. I forgot your goodness, forgot our years of affection. I was obsessed, I'm not human. He raised his hand and slapped himself hard, words drowned in suppressed sobs. I listened quietly. Didn't know how much of those heart-wrenching performances were for the Lydia in memory who once prepared birthday surprises for him, who would anxiously cry when he was sick. After that day, Julian still tried every way to see me. Perhaps unwilling to give up on me, or unwilling to give up the huge support the Lee family brought him. After all, from the Julian everyone flattered, falling to a street rat everyone avoids in just weeks, this taste isn't something anyone can bear. I couldn't be bothered to see him again, with bodyguards guarding me at all times. But he still found a loophole. In an industry charity gala parking lot. I was just sitting in my vehicle when he rushed out from the shadows, blocking the car. In just weeks, he had completely lost his former glamour, suit wrinkled, face ashen, only eyes frighteningly bright, staring tightly at me. Lydia. Lydia, listen to me. I know I was outrageously wrong, I don't ask for immediate forgiveness, just a chance to make up. Look, without those messy people and things, I'm still the old me, we can go back to before. We can start over, I promise this time. I interrupted him, Julian. Between us, it's long over. He excitedly raised his voice, trying to approach, blocked by my bodyguard stepping forward. It's not over. I know you still have me in your heart. That day you watched me from upstairs, I know. Lydia, our years of affection aren't gone just like that. I know, I was too greedy, I wanted your love and couldn't let go of Ivy's freshness, it's my fault. Forgive me this once, just once, okay? Please. I don't want anything, even if I'm no longer this Julian, I'll just obediently stay by your side, cook for you, carry your bag, okay? My head leaned against the car window, eyes slanting at him, lips lightly raised. Julian, back then it was me who pitted and accepted you, you really think you're somebody? Carry my bag for me, "Are you worthy?" The words he said to me at the restaurant, I returned them verbatim. He seemed choked, blood draining from his face. I beckoned him with my finger, "Come here." He walked over dazedly. I unhesitatingly raised my hand, using all strength, slapped him. He was hit to the side, face blank. I no longer looked at him, stepped on the accelerator and sped away. Only then did he struggle up, hoarsely shouting my name, voice shrill, "Lydia! Lydia! You can't treat me like this." He staggered, chasing me from behind, desperately. At that moment, a sedan suddenly rushed out from the side rear, piercing brake sounds and dull impact almost simultaneous. From the rearview mirror, I saw that running figure knocked flying. My car didn't stop. Later heard, in this accident, Julian saved his life but had his right leg amputated. Julian mentally collapsed, often muttering to the air, repeating only Lydia, sometimes sobbing, sometimes raging madly. And the Fu family, because of their young master's madness, completely bankrupted. Ivy, due to academic fraud, copyright infringement, and economic issues involving that previous mentor, with solid evidence, was sentenced to prison. Her once vain talent and ambition ultimately turned to nothing behind bars. But I no longer cared. I reorganized the property left by my mother, started expanding the company's business. I want everyone to know that the Lee family, under my Lydia's helm, is back.